It's amazing to me that the members of this chamber see no harm in paying those to whom they entrust the minds of their children a smaller wage than that is paid to whom they entrust the care of their plumbing. Until we pay teachers a livable wage, there's no need to talk about adding enhancements to it and merit pay. So second, let's be clear. There is no actual performance pay in the bill. That's right. Instead, this bill leaves the State Board of Education with nearly unfettered discretion to determine learning gains, salary structures, budget decisions, among other things, all without legislative oversight. Members, as Justice Scalia once said, administrative law ain't for sissies. You should lean back, clutch the sides of your chairs, and steel yourself for a lecture. The growth of executive power has reached unprecedented levels. There's been tremendous shifts from legislative preeminence to executive preeminence. As Scalia wrote, it is difficult to imagine a principle more essential to democratic government than that upon which the doctrine of unconstitutional delegation is founded. Except in a few areas constitutionally committed to the executive branch, the basic policy decisions governing society are to be made by the legislature. And yet here we are moving nearly unfettered discretion over the power of teachers' salaries and performance review to an unelected bureaucracy. As Scalia again said, independent agencies such as the State Board of Education have become, quote, the headless fourth branch of government. I have never seen a government body so willingly, knowingly, and quite frankly, even with a little tinge of giddiness, remove themselves from power. Yet this body constantly chides and grits its teeth over the idea of discretions to agencies like the Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Community Affairs, the Secretary of State, the Department of Insurance, and many other agencies whose heads can actually be removed by the governor. The State Board of Education, however, is an independent agency, the likes of the Federal Reserve, and therefore, as Ronald Reagan's Attorney General Edward Meese once said, it should be up to the president to enforce the law, and we should abandon the idea that there are such things as quasi-legislative or quasi-judicial functions that can be properly delegated to independent agencies. Thus, the only time I can presume that a government body, in this case, this legislative body, willingly removes from itself and transfers it to the unelected bureaucratic fourth branch of government is when it knows that unpopular, unfair, and unexplainable events are about to take place. Make no mistake, those that vote for this bill today will not walk away with clean hands by arguing that it was the future decisions of the Board of Education that are to blame for policies that destroy our public education system. We have all been put on notice today that we are fully accountable for whatever actions this unelected bureaucratic fourth branch of government imposes upon our education system. We are fully accountable for an excessive delegation that lacks standards and precision of duties delegated. There is nothing in this bill to adequately confine the exercise of administrative discretion. There is such a great extent of excessive delegation in this bill that the Board of Education has the power to legitimize action that would otherwise be ultra vires had this legislature taken one moment to spell out the duties and responsibilities of this headless fourth branch of government. So members, before you vote for this bill, ask yourself, how will learning gains be determined for students using end-of-course exams? How can you measure learning gains from Algebra 1 to Geometry, World History to American History, Chemistry to Physics, Spanish 2 to French 1? How will learning gains be measured when certain students enter a course with a level of knowledge of the content that ranges from knowing nothing to knowing the majority of the content? How will teacher learning gains on end-of-course exams in affluent area schools be compared with learning gains in poor inner-city schools? And perhaps most importantly, how long will children have to be in that teacher's classroom before he or she is counted in the pool of students determining learning gains? Can a student be transferred in 4 weeks? 2 weeks? 5 days? Can a student come the day of the exam and be counted towards that teacher's performance pay? Members, these are examples of the unfettered delegated authority you're about to give to a quasi-independent agencies. Members, this is the mother of all illegal delegations of legislative authority. And finally, we constantly hear from the Florida Chamber about making Florida attractive to businesses. We're told how we have to make the business environment one that will make employers or employees want to move to Florida. Well, the same is true for attracting teachers. In the last few years, Florida schools have produced about 6,000 new teachers every year, leaving another 10,000 needed to be recruited from out of state. Now, with the recession, this number is certainly reduced. How are we supposed to do that, though, when we already offer significantly lower starting pay, nearly $5,000 for many areas? We are now adding to that the inability to have any employment stability for people with professional degrees. Let's talk about effectiveness for a second. Let me try to teach some simple math again. A fifth grader will spend 180 hours in class with one particular teacher. Take out the 1/3 of the time that child will be asleep during the 365 days of that year. And that still means that one particular teacher will spend 3%. That's right, 3% of that child's life during that year trying to teach that child. And yet here we are telling that teacher that in order to pay their mortgage, in order to even pay their student loans, in order to even keep their professional license, they will be held responsible for that child learning the material for that school year. Will the doctor in the house take responsibility right now for the 97% of activities that his patients engage in outside his office? Will he refuse payment if his patient decides to eat hamburgers, smoke, and drink, even though the doctor told him not to during the small amount of time that he was spending in his office? Or will that doctor continue the practice of just checking off the procedure box? It could be that doctor knows something. There's some things, no matter how good the doctor is simply out of his control. Let's take lawyers. I have a client and explain to them what's legal and illegal. When they walk out of my office, they're still free to do what they want. I'm not held accountable for the actions of my client. In fact, ironically, the only lawyers who get paid based on their performance are the only lawyers that this chamber goes after year. Yet we are telling teachers that they are only as good as a random student that walks in their classroom door. Never mind, as the Seminole County Teacher of the Year wrote to me, their learning discrepancies, their unstable home lives, their prior learning experiences. Never mind the days of schools they have missed. Now I'm going to read that letter, but let's talk about effectiveness. My mother